What's up? What's up? My name is Tasha, and this is the Healthy, Happy, and Hot Show, where I take my 18 years as a fitness and nutrition coach to discuss how to become your best and healthiest self in a way that is simple and sustainable for you. If it is your first time, welcome. Thank you for sharing some time with me. And if you've been here before, welcome back. So this week I am talking about consistency and the all or none thinking trap. This is usually something that really plagues folks early on. We get started with things and everything is going great. And once something happens that we didn't plan for, or that kind of trips us up a little bit, instead of just, how you see people falling, you see them in process of falling on the sidewalk. Instead of just like being in process of falling in some sort of way through flailing of your arms, you're able to catch yourself and start walking again without completely falling. Instead of doing something like that, typically when it comes to our health and our nutrition, we will trip up, start to fall, and it's almost like we stop flailing. We just let ourselves fall, and then we might come back to it, or we just feel that, hey, this is an example of, I knew I couldn't do it. And I'm hoping that after you listen to this show, that you will learn why you get caught up with the all or none thinking trap and how that has messed you up with being consistent with your health journey. And then also how you can come back from that and really get rid of that way of thinking. So let's jump right in. First, I'm going to start off with a quote. Your worth is not dependent on being perfect. Okay, so just let that sink in. Your worth is not dependent on you being perfect. I'm also going to set you up with a great little scenario here because as you can probably tell, I like storytelling. So here we go. So let's just say you spent all day Sunday cooking your healthy meals for the week, and it makes you feel so good about yourself. But then Monday comes and you forgot your healthy lunch at home because you were rushing out of the door. Now it's lunchtime and you are hangry. Your work friends just invited you to go with them for lunch and you say, okay, but I'm just going to have a salad because you want to stay on track, Well, they order their food and what they order is nothing like a salad. And by the time the waiter gets to you, your salad sounds like torture. And so you order wings and fries and share a dessert because everybody else got a dessert too and side eye to them. And then when you go back to work, you start in on yourself. You start beating yourself up and you're just like, you know what? The rest of the day is trash. So on the way home, instead of eating the food that you have, remember you did meal prep, you decide to go through somebody else's drive-through on the way home, get a burger, some fries, and a soda. And then you get home and you feel like a failure because you got out of control. But you promise yourself that you'll start again tomorrow and work out extra hard and eat nothing but vegetables all day to get back on track. Does that sound familiar? Or some variety of that sounds familiar? And we've all done it, myself included, where we had one plan, it went a different way, and we're like, dang it, well, might as well just lean into the gluttony. And then next thing you know, the whole day has been trash. You feel bad. You feel bloated, but you're going to promise yourself you're going to starve your way back into getting back on track. And that's where we mess up. That all or none thinking has us to believe that any outcome that's less than 100% equals 0%. And that if you mess up, then it's pointless to keep trying. And it also has you believe that you only see the negative side of things and you ignore the possible, more positive side of stuff. Perfectionism is another form of all or none thinking. And it's this all or none thinking that leads you to be inconsistent. And I'm not just talking about food. I'm talking about fitness. I'm talking about all areas of your life. And the thing is, all or none thinking is a fallacy. That's not like your true personality, even though people will say, well, with me, it's either all or none. That's not true. And I always refer to jobs as the biggest way of saying this is not how you think all the time. Because many people on Monday wake up, well, every day during the week, wake up and go to a job that they don't absolutely love, right? And you don't put your all into that job. You put in enough to get that paycheck, and that's it. And you don't even like what you're doing, but you're committed to showing up at work and doing at least enough to make sure you get paid. But then when it comes to other areas of our life, and especially our health, usually we don't do the same thing. When you don't feel like cooking or eating healthy, then we just go with the, oh, well, I deserve to do X, Y, and Z that is like off track. You don't stay committed. We don't stay committed to our health the same way we stay committed to some other things that don't have that biggest benefit. Because if you don't have your health, you really don't have much, because you cannot pour from an empty cup if you are not mentally, spiritually, and even physically well. But then you're just also not living your best life. You're tired all the time. You're achy and all of those other things. And it can make you depressed, this whole all or none thinking, because it convinces you that something is hopeless, even when it isn't. Which, of course, when you're in the midst of this struggle bus time, you can't see that this definitely isn't true. This all or none thinking also ignores the progress that you've made and the successes that you've had. It's almost like that 3 feet from gold analogy, or that story, where you have these two people that are digging for gold, this amazing treasure. And one person just gives up because it's been so long and he hasn't reached it. And he's just like, it's not here. And then the other guy keeps going and realizes that he was just 3 feet. The other guy was just 3 feet from that treasure. We give up right before things start to really happen or we gain traction. So let's talk about why this happens. Where does this all or none thinking come from? And there's a much deeper, like from childhood usually, thing that has kicked this off, okay? And I don't want to dive into that part right now. That can be a whole other show. But we're just going to talk about this when it comes to your health goals and probably the present day, how it's affecting you in present day. So a lot of us have a lot of things going on outside of our health goals. We have work, we have family, we have, our social lives, and we are also worried about losing weight. We're worried about, is it going to happen this time? I'm not comfortable. And all of that is exhausting. And at some point, something's got to give. And it's usually with the food. A lot of us will still do some exercise or movement, but it's the food where things start to collapse first. And then it's just like London Bridge or dominoes. It creates a trickle effect. And the reason food becomes challenging is because food is also a comfort to many of us. And then our stress hormones, they like to play games. And food will be the usual thing that gets affected because it's a double-edged sword. Like, we have to eat. But then we have so many of our emotions and culture and traditions that's also tied into food that has everything else to do with just satisfying our physical hunger. And when we get stressed out, and it's usually stress, or there's some emotion that kicks off, we'll fall back into whatever our comfortable habit is, which is what we do most of the time. So even if you have been a full good 7 days into your healthy eating journey, you're feeling better, you're starting to sleep better, even if that happens, if something falls off track, you only have 7 days of habit of good. But behind you, you have 30, 40, 50 years of just like, that's behind you. So when you get caught and things go off track or off of that plan that you had for yourself, you're going to fall back into comfort. So you're going to fall back into those, whatever you usually do for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Okay. And that's where things go off track. Also, we also kind of use that one messed up meal that one meal that went off track as an excuse to finally eat what we want into a state of food comaville so that we don't have to think or feel about what's really bothering us in the first place. Remember, they call it comfort food just because it gives you a distraction. It takes away from what whatever was bothering you temporarily. But once you finish that last morsel, let me tell you, your problems are still there. Whatever was bothering you is still there. And then now you pile on the whole guilt, shame, all of that other stuff on top of that. And this happens a lot when restrictive dieting is occurring as a method of weight loss, meaning you've cut out an entire food group, meaning there's no sugar, no pasta, no bread, no soda. When you have a whole bunch of no's, when you have one little scratch, one little tear, you're willing to go all in because now you have that excuse, I've been missing all this other stuff, right? So here are some steps that we can take to shift from that all or none thinking so that we can become more consistent, okay? Number one, first thing we have to do is notice that we're thinking this way. And this is going to take a little bit of, listening to the words that are coming out of your mouth. Hey, even listening to the things that you're saying inside of your head. So you have to pay attention to the extreme words that you might use often. Words like never, always, everything, nothing, totally, completely, ruined, can't, and no one. And those are just a few. And I know I have had those before, and I always have to kind of check myself right when I hear myself say that and be like, girl, that's not true. And then come up with a new thing to say that is actually true. Because remember, words have power. Thoughts have power. And if this is how you're programming yourself, then it's almost like you're praying for this to happen. You're willing this thing to happen and to be true. And it's not. The second thing you have to do is identify your triggers. When do you say these things? What scenarios? Are you at work? Are you at school? Is it certain social situations when you're around certain people, when you're tired? Then say, that's that all or nothing thinking again, or that faulty thinking. You do have to either aloud or in your head say that so that you can cause some disruption. I actually label mine. Mine's named Creeper. I know that sounds creepy, but I label it so that it's a little bit more outside of myself. Oh, that's just Creeper talking again. That ain't true. So find some way to create some disruption. Next, realize that just because you're thinking something doesn't mean that it's true or helpful. Okay. And especially if you're a person that suffers from anxiety, you definitely don't want to think that your thoughts are true 100% of the time, because it'll have you thinking that around every corner is impending doom, or that you are just on this little, very thin string that you're balanced on and it's shaky and you're about to fall off. Okay. So just know that everything you're thinking isn't true and isn't always helpful. And you have to analyze that a little bit. So the way to do that, to figure out if a thought is true or not, ask yourself, does this thinking, does it get me closer to the life I want to live, or that I say that I want to live, or no? Is this closer to me, helping me become the person that I say that I want to be, or no? And if it's not, then it's not really true. If you keep beating yourself up, that's not getting you closer to who you want to be, especially if you want to be a confident person, confident and positive person. So just know, that's that stinking thinking or faulty thinking. Okay. Next thing you have to do is feel the emotion versus the thought. Okay. If you say things like, no one likes me, that's the thought. But the emotion is really that you're lonely. Or saying to yourself, I'll never be able to be healthy, when really you're just afraid or frustrated. We've been taught so much in this hustle culture and just like I don't know that it's not cool for us to have feelings or to express those feelings. You walk around and you say like, I'm lonely, you think people are going to clown you. We are allowed to feel our feelings. And not feeling our feelings have held us back in so many ways. So be very honest with yourself. What is it that you're feeling? Or as I tell my clients, I have them ask themselves, what is it that I'm eating away? Especially if you're not physically, especially when you're not hungry in real life. What are you eating away? Are you eating away sadness? And they have to put an emotion to it, because that's the only way that we can really get through that. Then you have to find a way of solving that problem. Call a friend if you're lonely, right? I actually walked one of my clients through this the other day. We were talking about her emotional eating, and I was like, well, what is it? What is it that you're eating away? And she just finally said it, and it was a group call, and she was just like, I'm really lonely. I live by myself. This pandemic, has kind of changed the way that I've done things. I'm just really lonely. I was like, cool, at least you can acknowledge that. And it actually kind of surprised her that she said that out loud to other people. And so I'm like, okay, what are some ways that you can, that can help you to not feel so lonely? We got her into calling a friend, or even better yet, FaceTiming a friend, or even, going out to parks and things like that. Just finding other ways to be around people and be social so she's not so lonely. If you're feeling frustrated or afraid with the whole health part, get a coach. Just like a shameless plug, you're listening to one right now, so we can get in contact and create some change. Next up, ask yourself, what could you learn from what just happened? So like getting back to our other example, if you left your food and, then you got caught up with your friends and ended up having like an off meal, what is it that you could learn from that? Okay, maybe we have to reformulate your morning routine so that you're not in such a rush when you're leaving the house. Or maybe it's that you always have a meal that's there. You have some go-to meals at some of the places your coworkers like to go. What could you learn from it? Next, use and versus or. Okay, the or is that all or none thinking. So let's say you typically say, I'm exhausted. I can either sleep in or exercise. When in reality, you could sleep in a little and still exercise, even if it's for a shorter period of time. Okay? Remember that, again, you don't have to exercise for an hour. So you can sleep in some and get in a shorter workout and then go back to it, into something longer or whatever you're used to after that. The next thing, ask yourself, what is this giving me? And though this may seem a little cray, we don't do anything that doesn't give us something in return. Remember that job that you're really not super in love with? You do it because it gives you a paycheck in return, and that paycheck can pay for your way of life that you desire. If the pay wasn't big enough or decent enough to give you something, you would not work there. So there's something that it's giving you. And with the all or nothing thinking, it's a way to self-protect, actually. It helps to keep us safe from taking risks and or from being vulnerable. Okay, so let's go back. You forgot your healthy lunch at home because you were rushing out. It's lunchtime, you're hangry. You grab fast food. Now you say the entire day or week is a disaster. You go all in on things that don't help your goals. What did that give you? It protected you from having to stop and take time to make a better decision. You didn't have to think when you just fall back on whatever you're used to doing. Also, the day is not over. So your next meal can be a better meal. So we have to be open to not just success, but we also have to be open to failure and work on things to be better next time. We typically don't like to fail, but failure gives us clues, just like success leaves clues. So if something didn't work for you, figure out why. It's just giving you information, okay? And then lastly, practice self-compassion. All right. The harsher we are to ourselves when we make a misstep, the more likely you are to be closed off and just quit trying. Acknowledge that setbacks and mistakes are going to happen, because they are, and move forward. And then also speak to yourself like you would your best friend, because we are supposed to be our own best friends. Think about that part, because even when things don't go according to plan, just the way I just know the things I say to myself when I'm not doing something in some area of life like I wanted and things didn't go right. Just the things that we will say to ourselves. And it's so interesting because if I have when I talk to my clients and they have a success, let's say, they had a scale success. They dropped, maybe 3 pounds, 4 pounds in the week. And then they had some non-scale successes, like they're feeling better. They have more energy. Their sleep is better. They're noticing their skin get better and all of those other things. But they have successes. And when they share those with me, I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yo, what's up with that? Well, I just don't want to be too cheerful about it. What you mean? They don't want to celebrate too much. And that's the problem. We think it's weird to celebrate ourselves, to celebrate our small successes. But then we don't think it's weird at all to talk trash about ourselves. To be like, yeah, you messed up. I know you're just too lazy, or whatever we say to ourselves in our heads. That's not unusual for us to trash talk ourselves, but it's unusual for us to celebrate ourselves. We need to change that, y'all. So speak to yourself like you would your own best friend. And if you don't feel like you have a best friend, talk to yourself the way you would do a dog. Well, man. Oh, good boy. You tried. You almost had it. Or talk to yourself like you would a baby, right? Imagine if, a baby's trying to walk. Or actually, I guess that would be no, they're still babies when they're trying to walk. I don't have children, so I'm just like, I don't really know what I'm talking about with stages there. But you have a baby that's trying to walk, and the baby falls down, takes 2 steps and falls down. What if you were just like, see, baby, you just can't get this. You might as well give up on walking. You can't make it. You keep falling. No, we told the baby, oh, good boy. Yay, you did it. Just try it again. Don't give up. But then we'll tell ourselves some other garbage. So speak to yourself like you would your best friend, a dog, or a baby, and I promise you things will be better. All right. So when it comes to health and nutrition more specifically, leave the dieting mentality and restriction way of eating in the wind. Let it go by. Okay. Stop expecting perfection. It's a lie. All right. So just don't have off limit foods. Unless you have medical conditions. People that have SIBO can only eat certain things. If you have Crohn's disease, you can only eat certain things. But outside of that, even if you don't have gluten sensitivities or you're allergic to gluten, don't go gluten free. So don't have off-limit foods. This is what makes my clients the most successful. Nothing, even if it's not so healthy, nothing is off limits. And when you do that, it takes away the allure of it being super special. For example, weekend meals, Thanksgiving meals, we make them special. That Thanksgiving food has always been in the grocery store. Okay. But we make it special because, of course, the culture around it, who cooked whatever dish and all of that stuff. And we overindulge on things that are always available in the store. Okay. Think about that. Don't make weekends anything special. Okay. We like to think weekends are the free, I'm on vacation weekends. And those weekend indulgences can mess you up total or just keep you stagnant. Have an indulgent meal during the week and maybe one on the weekend, or have a small indulgence daily. And then here's the thing, stop starting over. The way you stop quitting is to stop quitting. The way that you can be consistent is to be consistent. Remember, consistency isn't 100%. It's what are you doing 85 to 90% of the time. So even if things go south, let your next meal be better versus starting over again tomorrow or next Monday, because we love to do things on Monday, or next year or next month, whatever. Stop starting over. You can shift and make a better decision with your very next meal. All right. Well, that's all for today, folks. Let me know if this episode connected with you, and if so, how it connected with you. If you want, you can connect with me on social media, on Facebook and IG at Mix, M-I-X, Kitchen Fitness, or Tasha _Mix Kitchen Fitness. Tasha is with an O. All right. Also, if you'd like to chat and just see what it would be like to work together, you can set that up by going to my website, which is kitchenfitness.com. And if you have any questions about this episode, a past episode, something with your health, fitness, nutrition, mindset, email me. I got a new email address. It's healthyhappyhotshow@gmail.com. Thank you so much for sharing time with me. And until next time, stay healthy, my friends.